to life.
He still takes the field? Yeah. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkers. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drug your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Welcome to an early Saturday broadcast for the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta, or now known as Echo Park Speedway. I don't like doing Saturday mornings. I don't like doing mornings at all, but mostly on weekends. I'm up early most of the time during the week, but yeah, and then have a really late race from Xfinity race last night, which, I mean, was entertaining. Almost took home some decent money, but ended up pretty much breaking even for the night. If you played last night, hopefully you played like you're supposed to when you're playing a drafting style track. I don't even want to call Atlanta or Echo Park a super speedway. Good morning, family man. Glad you could join in. Yeah, you've had a long week too. The air conditioning man has been hard at work all week, making sure lots of people stay cool. So good for him for keeping the world nice and cool this past week and most of his life. But either way, thanks for joining in. Yeah, late night last night, early morning this morning. You're working now. Of course you are. Because you pretty much only take Sundays off. Are you going to get off in time to watch the race tonight? Hopefully so. But yeah, So luckily enough there was not practice, because I'm not sure I would have had time to put practice time in. I would have, because the Xfinity race lasted longer and I could have done it while that was going on late last night. But I planned on going live after the race, and then the race didn't end until like 12:15, 12:30, and was like, no way, not happening. And then completely forgot all about the truck series being at Lime Rock. So skipped the gym today, started working on truck lineups. What's up, Adam Scott? I appreciate you tuning in, and thanks for the shout out. Love having you guys here. And I like putting it together. It helps me kind of mentally build lineups and work through some of things I may miss or may not miss. So I do it as much for myself as for everyone else to enjoy. So welcome aboard, and let's get into it. But either way, I completely forgot about the truck race at Lime Rock, which is going to be really, really cool. It's a really fun track. And to see some of the road course guys that don't typically get a chance to run in the NASCAR series kind of come out and play in the truck series should be quite entertaining, to say the least. But yeah, and then literally qualifying just ended, and I decided to go live at 11, so I'm cramming my lineups potentially in, and haven't quite finished. So we are definitely on I wouldn't say a time crunch, but I do not need to make this a 2-hour and 20-minute video today. It's going to be more like an hour and 45, so I can finish getting my lineups in. So hopefully we will be done here by absolutely no later than 1 o'clock East Coast time. So last week at Pocono, the 19, Chase Briscoe takes home the win on another fuel mileage race. And we've got another track we're going to that potentially could be a fuel mileage race, because track position, it kind of matters. I mean, fuel mileage matters everywhere you go, but more track position kind of matters. But it is. I don't know. Atlanta is turning into quite a unique track, and it's going to be very interesting to see because we have no practice on what speeds are really there and not there. So, it's going to be quite entertaining to put lineups together and kind of figure it out. But we do this. We've done this ever since Atlanta reconfigured, and I'm just going to call it Atlanta. I know it's Echo Park, but I'm just going to call it Atlanta. So just we'll have to deal with it. I mean, it took forever for Charlotte to change its name to Lowe's, and then they switched it back to Charlotte. So, and now we're back to knowing it as Charlotte. But anyway, Pocono last weekend, Chase Briscoe with a fuel mileage race beating the other fuel mileage guy, Denny Hamlin. And after watching Denny Hamlin's podcast, I don't I don't know what to do with this car. I don't think anybody really knows what to do with this car. It just creates such a different, turbulent draft that if you can't be right up behind somebody, it's just hard to pass. And Denny was like, I couldn't pass. And no matter what he did, Chase Briscoe's running at 75-80%. Denny's running at 100 and can't get by him. So either way, I did not call the Chase Briscoe out to win. Maybe I probably should have, since he's been fast all year and just qualified too well and fallen to the back. And this week he decides to use a little bit of pit strategy, get out to the lead, and save 7 laps of fuel somehow. I'm still not sure how that really even happened. Most of the field was kind of like, he's going to run out with 3 laps to go. No, he's going to run out with 2 laps to go. No, he's actually probably going to run out in the last lap. Nope, he's going to win and have enough gas to do a burnout. It's always how they do it. I think it's a conspiracy. I'm kidding. I don't think so. But either way, Chase Briscoe was kind of the only pick that I did not have, which kind of hurt a lot because he scored 75 points, and we kind of looked at the cutoff lines, and it really kind of being in that 50 to 60 point range is really where you needed to fall unless you had a dominator. And sure enough, look at there. 72 laps led by Chase Briscoe. Man, we have to watch for Cindric tonight. Underrated super speedway racer. Yeah, we need to watch out for Austin Cindric, but I would not call him underrated. He's a Daytona 500 winner. He also won at, where did he win at earlier this year? It was a super speedway. Where did he win? I don't remember now. I love nice thing about the internet. When you can't remember stuff because you're getting old. Where did he win? For last win was Talladega. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, 2 super speedway wins. I'm not sure I'd call him an underrated super speedway guy. Also drives for Penske, which is probably one of the most dominant cars or teams for super speedways. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying because he's going to get overlooked by Logano and potentially Blaney and Byron and a couple of those others. But Austin Cindric is, not shabby at all at super speedways or drafting style tracks. And this, all right, finish up with Pocono real quick before we get into the rest of it. Pocono, 160 laps, 1 dominator, 4 place differentials. It was pretty much like I thought it was going to be. I did not have the Chase Briscoe call. But I mean, if we would have substituted Denny Hamlin in, you still would have finished pretty well. So out of this group, probably the Austin Cindric play was probably the one I may have overlooked at Pocono. And let's see, the optimal lineup challenge: Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain still at the top, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman all with 6, and Preece, Hamlin, and Bell with 5. Okay, now that we finished up with Pocono, let's head to Atlanta and get into all of the goods for Atlanta Echo Park Speedway, whatever you want to call it. It is a intermediate slash super speedway slash drafting style track. I really should change this. It really shouldn't be a super speedway. It's a drafting style track. A lot like Michigan. This is, other than Michigan, they do have to let off in the corners a little bit. And if you're back in the dirty air at this track, you will have to still lift. But the leaders could easily go full throttle. Now, once again, we're going to get into this whole let's play with fuel mileage so we don't have to spend as much time on pit road type thing for the first and second stage to get some track position. Passing will be available. And because things happen so quickly here, it's magnified. So if you happen to have a slight slip in any of the corners, it's magnified 3 or 4 times. And to try to catch it, the other guy's going to have a draft. He's going to have speed. If he handles well, he's going to get under or above and get the pass done. So the passing is going to be there, where typically at the 1.5 miles, the dirty air or the aero block is a little bit more pronounced. That and the cars are packed up together so you can get some help with a push. And we saw that at Michigan. You could actually get up to the guy that was in second, not the leader, but second, third, or fourth, and really give them a good shot, which would give them enough energy from the draft to get around the leader. So same type of thing here, but it just happens so much faster because the speeds are so high and it's a 1.5 mile track. So other tracks that we can compare to, forgot 260 laps. Dominators could play a potential, but it's only happened once in the 7 races on this reconfigure. And that's when Joey Logano just absolutely dominated. Other than that, most of the lineup construction is similar to a drafting, but slightly different. It's become its own unique hybrid of just a drafting style track. It's really just how I want to call it. But tracks to compare to, of course, Daytona and Talladega, because of the age of the track now, and it's starting to have handling characteristics where you can't go completely full throttle. Michigan is now being dragged into this conversation because of the drafting style. And I think we're just going to continue to see other tracks kind of get pulled into the modeling of how you build lineups and who you look at for potential speed. Kansas and Las Vegas also have some drafting characteristics. Now, it's a little harder to pass there because you're not quite as bunched, and the banking is not conducive to tight pack racing. But we're going to start to see what we saw in the Xfinity series is you're going to see small groups break away from each other. You're going to have groups of 7, 8 to 10 cars pull away from another group of 5 to 8 cars, and then another group of 8 to 10 cars. And that's going to lead to a little bit of differencing on how we build our lineups in the future. Because then at that point, if the group that you didn't expect to be there is out front and they don't make the mistake, they don't wreck and they hold their positions pretty well. It's going to be interesting. What are they showing? All right, so don't watch Fox Sports because they have David Starr on the pole for tonight's race. That was hilarious. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I just happened to look up and was like, starting from the pole, David Starr. I'm like, okay, somebody's Chiron's absolutely screwed up there. Sorry, brain fart. So our optimal lineups from the previous Atlanta races. As I said before, this ends up getting built a lot like our super speedways. With the you can't absolutely fade the cars that are starting in the top 10 as easily. You still potentially have to have some of the cars in the top 10, not many, but still the majority of your points are going to come from place differential. And we can easily see this from the spring race. I mean, these guys were 78, 73, 71, 70, and they all started 26th or worse. We've got a very similar type of situation again this weekend, where this group of cars did not qualify well again. It's oddly unique to what we saw in the spring race as far as qualifying goes. Yeah, I mean, I think Ross Chastain is actually starting 33rd. I think, well, actually, Denny Hamlin's starting 33rd, but Ross is in the 30s, Denny's in the 30s, Stenhouse is in the 30s, and I think Bell may even be in the 30s. We'll get to the driver breakdown, but oddly very similar. And the last two races, as you can see, this is a 260 lap race, have gone to overtime. The fall race from last year, we did have Austin Cindric lead 92 laps. There's your underrated super speedway. I'm sorry to pick on you, but I know you're okay with it. Austin Cindric leading 92 laps, and he actually fell 5 spots from a starting spot and still made the optimal lineup. Part of it was he was $7,400, so he was inexpensive. Joey Logano ended up getting the win, starting from 7th. So you could play somebody in the top 10 that you think is not going to have an issue, or is going to lead and finish, is going to lead a lot of laps and finish in the top 10, like Austin Cindric. Started in 5th, finished in 10th, led 92 laps. That was 54 points. But literally, Christopher Bell started 26th, finished 4th, and still outpointed Austin Cindric. So there is a little bit of concern by still taking people in the top 10, but it is plausible to make that happen. And in fact, the spring race from 2024, same thing. You had Austin Cindric leading 32 laps and Ryan Blaney leading 31 laps, and they both ended up making the optimal lineup. Once again, the 50s and above is kind of the sweet spot when we start to use our little calculator and break down what we're looking for points. And it's really, really difficult to get to above 50 points starting in the top 10 without leading a fair amount of laps. Now, 30 laps out of 260 is not a ton, but they had 4 points of place differential both, and that gave them the bump that they needed to get into the 50s. So you're going to have 15 drivers that could easily go in and out of an optimal lineup, and it wouldn't be optimal, but close to an optimal lineup that would potentially end up winning you money. So don't have to be absolutely perfect. Now, the fall 23 race was a rain-shortened race where William Byron did end up getting the win. Oh yeah, the other thing you could also look at is almost everyone is finishing top 10. So if you can have a crystal ball and figure out who's going to finish in the top 10, that kind of helps too. So, but there are some patterns that kind of lead into that. But as you can see, William Byron from 18th to 1st only led 19 laps. Now it was, 80 laps short of the distance, or 75 laps short of the distance. Definitely kind of tampered down the potential of dominator points and made it lean more into what we consider, I just had a brain fart. I think you know what I'm talking about. 2023 spring race, Joey Logano led 140 laps, started from the pole, and finished in 1st. Well, guess who's got the pole for tonight's race? Joey Logano. Joey Logano, I will have in a few select lineups, but all it takes is one mistake on pit road, and Joey Logano's pit crew has not been great this year, for him to potentially lose that lead. Brad Keselowski, 47 laps led, also started in the top 10, also finished in the top 3, which helped. And once again, money, you can leave a ton of money on the table. So $3,400, $2,000, $600, $4,500, $3,200, $3,200 left on the table. And once again, in the fall 2022 race, the pole sitter led 96 laps, finished in first, and made the optimal lineup. So I guess it's happened twice, and it did happen back to back in the fall of 22, in the spring of 23. It's possible. So we're not a complete fade out of the top 10. I'm still going to lean much heavier on place differential than I am potential optimal lineups. And like I said, I'll have some Joey Logano in a few select lineups. I think Ryan Blaney ended up qualifying well. I'll have him in a couple of select lineups. And I'll probably... And it's so crazy to sit here and look, because I just... The math typically does not work this way unless you have a bunch of cheap drivers that have good place differential. But we had Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain, both front row starters, both finished first and second, ended up making the optimal lineup, which does not happen at Talladega or Daytona. Very, 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 very rare. And then Joe Logano and Brad Keselowski, first and fourth. So, can it happen? Sure. It's a 50-50 shot, though. And as we saw last night in the Xfinity series, all it takes is the second or third place guy to get a wrong push in a wrong corner, and you take out 17 cars, or damage them enough to where they're not really viable. So it's not a complete fade on the top 10. It's more of a 50-50 shot, looking for that little lightning in a bottle. So when we're looking at the total points from races and where cars are starting that end up getting the top 15 in Draftkings points for Atlanta, as we can see, the bulk is coming from 21 to 30th starting spot with 5.6. 31st or worst is 2.6. 11 through 20 is 4.2. And starting in the top 10, it's 2.6. So the odds of making the top 15 in points are about the same starting in the top 10 as it is starting in the 30s. I think this race, depending on, of course, who ends up in the big ones, who ends up with mechanical issues, this plays a lot like the spring race. We've got a lot of dominant drivers with the same manufacturer starting in the 30s. So I think this 30 line could get pushed up a little bit, and we might see a little bit of fading on the 11 through 30. So either way, our driver-by-driver breakdown, let's get into it so we can hit the little calculator and kind of figure out what we think, what we don't think, what we want to maybe fade on, what we want to maybe really dive into, and who's good in Atlanta and who's not. There's some drivers that are just good here, and there's some teams that are really good here. Speaking of Ryan Blaney and Penske, very, very quick. The Fords always seem to be much faster, a tick faster than everyone else. The problem is they're susceptible because they are quick. They typically don't have quite as good a balance in the race car, and because it is a drafting style track, the teammates will start to work together. The Hendrick guys will get up there. The Gibbs guys will get up there. The 2311 will come with the Gibbs. The Chevys will all kind of work together to catch up with the Fords, and the Toyotas will catch up with the Chevys, and everybody will end up kind of all mix-matched up towards the front. But Ryan Blaney typically is one who will run well here, He'll run consistently here, seems to avoid the bigger calamities. But once again, he's starting in third. Well, when we get to our calculator here in a second, it makes it a little tough. He does have 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 5th place average finish for the last 5 races at Atlanta, a 7.7 average running position, and this is something Family Man and I have talked about off the video, is this number is really, really good to continue to look at, because this kind of shows where they were running throughout the entire race and not necessarily where they finished. So a lot of times you could have, I mean, Ryan Blaney's not the best example, but because they're pretty close. But you'll have some real discrepancies where somebody's average finish is like 19th, but their average running position is like 8th or 9th because they've either had mechanical issues or they've ended up having a wreck. Is that going to happen every time? No, but that's the ARP, the average running position, kind of gives a little bit of a snapshot of not just where they finish, but where they run throughout the race and where they could have finished. It's just one more tool to kind of keep an eye on and see who is good and who may not be good. I mean, you also have some guys. What's up, Wyatt? Thanks for joining me bright and early on a Saturday morning. But this average running position also could be an indication of something different. Somebody could have a pretty decent average finish because at like some of these super speedways or drafting style tracks, the big one happens. But if they're running consistently in the 20s for the entire race and end up just finishing well, that plays both sides of the coin. Number one, they're just waiting for the big one, which is not necessarily a bad strategy. But if the big one never comes, then that could potentially hurt you. But that only happens on rare occasions. Talladega earlier this year. And I don't think that's going to be Atlanta. I think Atlanta, this could be a real mess. But yeah, so Ryan Blaney's really, really good at Atlanta. He's really good at taking care of his equipment, missing the big ones, and having really good finishes. So with that being said, starting in third, not much place differential. He's going to need to lead laps. So if he happens to finish in first, now I've pretty much already gone through this because I had time while watching the Xfinity race and kind of put everything in for these averages, and then we'll start to play with it, because at this point anybody could win this race, anybody could lead this race, except for probably one person. That's David Starr, which I didn't even put in my lineups. But Fox Sports tells me he's starting from the pole. In fact, I think it's about ready to come up right now again. Cup Series, Echo Park Speedway. Let's see what it says. I know you can't see it, but starting lineup. First, David Starr. Second, Connor Zell. That's the starting lineup for qualifying. Yeah, Fox News or Fox Sports. Fake news. I figured out what they did. They just haven't put the lineup in. They just used the qualifying order. Dummies. But okay, so I've got all this put in. Starting in third, finishing first, almost across the board. This you can see right here, the average and the high fast laps for Atlanta. This is going to be pretty much almost everybody. The average is about 3 to 5. You'll have a few drivers that will get higher. Carson Hocevar, first one that comes to mind. But typically it's no more than 10. And this is a bulk of where the Dominator points come from, because it's almost a half a point per fast lap, where a lap led is only a quarter point. So to be exact, a fast lap is 0.45 points. Pretty much just call it a half a point. Where leading a lap only gives you a quarter of a point. So you would need to lead 4 laps to 2 just to get 2 fast laps to get 1 point. Well, when we're trying to get to 54 points, that makes a difference. So, but either way, If Ryan Blaney can get the lead, and Atlanta sees a ton of lead changes, unless, and we kind of have this set up at the very beginning, so this first stage probably will be dominated by Joey Logano or one of the Penske's, and you can put Josh Berry into that camp because they're starting 1, 2, 3, 4. They literally just have a blockade on the front row. One of the four of them is going to lead the bulk of stage one, or at least until pit strategies start to come into play. So the Penske guys, one of the Penske guys is going to lead a ton of laps. They may even share the lead. Joey Logano might go out and lead 20 laps, and then because of fuel mileage savings, they may end up flipping and allowing Blaney to go lead a few laps. That's possible. Joey Logano typically doesn't let anybody else lead. So more likely Joey Logano or Austin Cindric or Blaney or Josh Berry are going to lead the bulk of stage one. Unless there's something freaky happen, a tire blows or somebody wrecks. But either way, so Ryan Blaney could easily lead 20 laps. Could lead a few more. But let's say for the off chance that he just sticks around in third and stays in third, and then they get kind of put back in the middle of the pack and he never leads any more laps. Well, it takes us to 49.25. Optimal for $11,000 is going to probably need to be at least 55 points or more. So, with that being said, even starting third, finishing first, it'll be close to top 15 in points, but probably, in fact, what was top 15 average? 35.7. So yeah, he would be top 15 in points, but the problem is at $11,000, that's not good value. So Ryan Blaney's going to need to start up front, he's going to need to stay up front, and he's going to need to lead some laps at some point if he plans on being somebody that you're going to put in the optimal lineup. Joey Logano starting from the pole. By the way, there was no practice, so no practice data to go off of. But that's very typical for these super speedway style tracks, or drafting style tracks. Joey Logano, $10,700. Very, very similar to Ryan Blaney, extremely fast. Joey tends to have a little less consistency. I was going to say luck, but it's more consistency, and I think Joey makes his own luck because Joey gets a little too aggressive, or his pit crew decides to make mistakes. So Joey Logano, in my opinion, is more susceptible to not finishing as well, but he also has 2 wins where Ryan Blaney doesn't have any wins at all. So it's kind of either checkers or wreckers for Joey Logano, even though in the last 5 races he does have 4 top 20s. An 11.8 average finish and an 8.7 average running position. So once again, his average finishes are worse than where he typically runs, which says he has some issues at some point during the time. And that's typically, something you can definitely kind of look at, but we already know that Joey Logano is going to be very good at this style track. So let's put him. He's going to need to lead. He's going to need to start first. He's going to need to finish first. And he's going to need to lead about 30 laps or more. Very plausible for the laps led. The real question is, Joey Logano winning is not as certain. I feel pretty confident that Joey Logano will lead probably somewhere between 20 and 30 laps, if not more. So I'm not necessarily worried about the laps led. The problem is if any of these Penske guys fall to even ninth, that's 36.75 or 34.75 for 10th. And it just continues to fall from there. So at $10,700, a 34.75, it's too expensive. It's not value. It's going to drag it down. He's going to need to finish. What happens if he finishes in third? How many laps does he need to lead? 40. Oh, more than that. Probably going to need to lead 60 laps. Yeah, 60 laps, finish in third to make 56.25. Andrew, good morning, sir. At the end, you got any thoughts on trucks? Yeah, it's going to be wild to watch Jordan Taylor and Corey Heim battle it out today. Corey Heim's awesome in the trucks, and Jordan Taylor is one of the best road course racers out there. Now, Jordan Taylor doesn't have much experience in the trucks, which probably makes it a fairly equal race. I think we're also going to see some names that you don't typically think of. Andre Perez is going to be really good. Cam Waters is going to be very good. So, yeah, towards the end, I may pull up my stuff and just finish it live on here. So, I'll kind of show you where I'm at with those guys. But we're talking Cup right now, and we'll get to the Xfinity stuff, or the truck stuff, in a little bit. So, I'll have some Joey Logano because the potential is there. I don't think the potential is super high, but it is there. It's not like at a super speedway. If this were Daytona or Talladega, nope, there's no way. Well, you also have to remember that Daytona and Talladega are less than 200 laps. They're 160 laps. The 500 is 200 laps, but with 260 laps, that gives 60 more Dominator potential points to play with. So, and that ends up mattering because you can see, I don't think Joey Logano leads 60 laps at Talladega or Daytona, where I think it's easily plausible that Joey Logano leads 60 laps tonight. I mean, any of the four Penske guys starting in the top four could lead 60 laps. The question is, you just have to find out which one. So my thought is I will probably end up building a lineup with the 5 guys that I like for place differential, and then just fit and make 4 of those lineups and just fit a Joey Logano in one, a Ryan Blaney in one, a Josh Berry in one, and an Austin Cindric in one. And just let it run. And if one of the 4 of them ends up being the Dominator and wins the race, then I'm covered. And also what? I mean, if I'm running 40 or 60 lineups tonight, then I'm only using 10%. So that's kind of how I'm probably going to end up building lineups. I'm not going to completely fade it out, but I'm also not going to be very heavy. I'm going to cover my base and be like, all right, if this happens to happen, at least I've got a lineup or 2 that have the potential of surviving to the end. But also remember, Joe Logano probably is going to be decently owned. When I say decently, probably 18 to 20%. So, I mean, heck, Austin Hill yesterday was 43%, and what, 20 laps into that race, it was over and done with. The fuel pump issue. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a wreck. It used to be a fuel pump, and he got 6 laps down and could never make anything up. Now he ended up coming back and finishing 26, but he started second. Yeah, lost a ton of place differential, so he was out of the running. William Byron, 10,500, starting in 18th. He does have 1 win here at Atlanta in the last 5 races. 17.2 average finish and a 12.5 average running position. He finished 27th in this race in the spring. Willie B. I don't, honestly, I'll have a couple of spots of ownership with Willie B. I almost don't know if I trust Byron right now. And I don't think this is a spot where Willie B goes out and leads 200 or 100, 150 laps. He's just not in the position to do that. And, will he lead maybe a couple laps? Maybe. But, I put 10 in here to play with the calculator because his average is 5 to 19. Or his average is 5 and his high is 19. And once again, his fast laps and average laps are 3 to 6. So put 5 in here. Does he have the potential to win? Like I said, pretty much everybody, in my opinion, has a potential to win this thing, except for David Starr. I kind of doubt BJ is going to win, but I've seen weirder, stranger things happen. So, you wreck out 20 guys in the field and BJ doesn't have any damage, he could win. It's minuscule, but so, does William Byron lead any laps? No, but if he goes and finishes first, it's 64 points. Definitely easily in the optimal lineup. Now, he's going to need to finish in first. He's decent in super speedways. But in the off chance he only gets to fifth, well, fifth still gets you there. And he doesn't have to lead any laps. So, will he be? I will have him play. His average finishes slightly concern me. And his average running position slightly concerns me. And I think there's also potentially better plays for less. So, will I be a complete fade on William Byron? No. Will I have him 40%? Probably not. I'll probably have him in like 20%. So, if I'm running 40 lineups, I'll have him in probably 8, give or take. All right, Austin Cindric, our underrated super speedway racer. I'm just giving you a hard time just because I know I can pick on you a little bit and you'll laugh about it. 10,200, and we only pick on the people we like. Starting in fourth. So, once again, Penske drivers occupy the first 2 rows. It's going to be a blockade. He has an average finish of 13th, but has an average running position of 7.1 at Atlanta. He finished 28th in this race after getting wrecked by my guy Kyle Larson in the spring in the closing laps. So Austin Cindric was in play to win the spring race, and Kyle Larson wrecked him. And then Kyle Larson still didn't go and win. He got third, I think. Oh well. It's still his best super speedway finish ever, because Kyle Larson is the most he's too aggressive for these tracks, to be honest. But we'll get to Kyle Larson. Oh, look there, he's gonna be next. Either way, starting in fourth, Austin Cindric, it's the same story. Rinse and repeat as Blaney and Logano. Absolutely could lead laps. Starting in the front 4. Yeah, if you're looking for a potential place differential, he's starting in fourth where Joey's starting in first. Can he lead 30 laps? Sure. I'm not sure Joey Logano, if Joey Logano gets the lead, I'm not sure he relinquishes it in the first stage. And that's realistically going to be the best shot for these Penske guys to hold on to that blockade. Are going to be just hold on to it for the entire first stage. After the first stage, pit stops will start to happen, and one of the 4 are going to have a bad pit stop, or a speeding penalty, or too long getting fueled, or somebody's going to take 2 tires and get into the mix and start to play with the blockade of the Penske's up front. So the first stage, I think the Penske's are going to be fun. One of the 4 of them are going, or multiple will lead all of stage 1, unless there's a wreck. Understand that. But if all things are level and there's no cautions, no wrecks, one of the 4 Penske guys are going to lead most of stage 1. So once again, fourth to first, lead 30 laps. It's 57 points. Don't lead as many laps. Let's say you go to 5, and let's say you fall the third. That's 45.5 points at $10,200. That's going to be real tough to be in the optimal lineup conversation. So still very risky, and not starting on the pole could be a slight concern. Once again, I don't mind running Austin in a few lineups. Just starting that far up, it's not a complete fade, but it's going to be probably low owned. So is what I'm saying. Like I said, I'll run him in a couple lineups, just like I said I would do with Joe Logano and Ryan Blaney. But it's also not a complete fade like I would do at Talladega or Daytona. Kyle Larson, $10,000, starting in 11th. Oh, here's the big discrepancy. His average finish at Atlanta for the last 5 races is a 27.8. His average running position is a 17.4. Neither one are very good. His best finish is a 3rd. At all super speedways. This is not just Atlanta. He just has luck, but you make your own luck. So Kyle Larson's just kind of like Brad Keselowski. It's checkers or wreckers. And kind of the same thing with Joe Logano. They're just aggressive drivers. They get up front and either make a mistake or have a mistake made around them. But he has a whopping negative 1.1 DraftKings average. Yes, negative 1.1 DraftKings average. So, once again, I mean, Kyle Larson starting 11th. Can he win? Sure. He finished in 3rd. Can he lead some laps? Maybe. I mean, so if he does all that to 59.75, great. But his average finish is 22nd. I mean, even if he just finishes where he starts, that's 36.75. That's not going to cut it at $10,000. So I'll have a little bit of ownership with Kyle Larson, about the same as I do with the Penske drivers, but probably not much more than that. Same thing with Willie B. I'll probably have a little bit more Willie B because there's a little bit better opportunity for place differential. But once again, it's a lot of either I'm going to finish top 3 or I'm going to finish in 24th for Willie B. Chase Elliott, 9,800, does have a win in the on the new reconfigured Atlanta, but it's been a while. The last 5 races here have been 1 top 10, 4 top 20s. A 14.0 average finish with a 15.5 average running position. He's starting in 15th, and he finished in 20th in the spring race. Yeah, I mean, this is typical Chase Elliott. I'm just going to go out here. I'm going to run it. If I get some opportunities, I'll take them. If not, I'll just settle right where I'm at and be okay. And I'll just quietly just do his thing. I think it was funny. Somebody asked him about the in-season tournament. And he was like, what are you talking about? I don't know if he was just trolling them or if he really didn't know. And a lot of people said, no, he probably didn't know. He doesn't pay attention to NASCAR at all until Friday or Saturday. I'm like, that's crazy. So Chase Elliott, 9,800, put him in the calculator. 15th to 1st, there's place differential there to easily get him there. The problem is if he goes and finishes 9th, which seems to be kind of where he has been finishing most races this year, and doesn't lead any laps, it's not pretty. It's 44.15 points. So, yeah, I'll have. I don't mind having a Chase Elliott, but I'm not excited about putting a Chase Elliott in my lineups either. So it's not like a non-Penske guy or non-Ford guy starting in the top 10. I just go, yeah, not happening, and there's not enough runway for them to make it. So I'll fade those. And I'm pretty much a fade on most everybody starting in the top 10, with the exception of what we've already talked about. Denny Hamlin, starting in 33rd, going to be extremely heavily owned. And this is just what you get at drafting super speedway style tracks. We're going to have these guys that you kind of almost just have to use the free square and punch it. Now, I'm not saying go and run Denny Hamlin in 70, 75, 80% of your lineups, but I'm still going to probably be even with the field on a Denny Hamlin and other drivers when we get to them. The place differential here is just too extreme, and it's easy to show what Joey would have to do and what Denny would have to do to get the same amount of points. But if we look at the averages, I mean, kind of similar to Chase Elliott, but we've got a huge runway here. Starting 33rd, if he goes and finishes 15th, we'll look at that in 1 second. But the runway all of a sudden got a lot longer to get the same amount of points. So let's just take a look. Let's put him on the calculator. All right, well, if he goes from 33rd to 1st, leads 10 laps, well, let's just take the lead laps led out. If he wins, he gets 1. 15 fast laps, that's probably a little on the hefty side. Let's go to 5. 79.5 points. Well, let's say he doesn't lead a lap. And let's say he falls to 13th. That's 52.5 points. 10th gets him to 59.25. So somewhere between 10th and 12th. And he will outscore Joey Logano, who leads 40 laps and finishes in 1st. Yeah, in fact, let's see. Joey Logano finishing in 1st, leading 40 laps, gets him 57.25 points, and Denny Hamlin finishing in 11th? 10th. Between 10th and 11th will get you the same amount of points. That's why I said the runway is so much bigger for Denny Hamlin than it is for Joey Logano. I'm not saying Joey Logano can't do what I just described, but you're asking somebody to finish in 1st when there's 40 other drivers or 39 other drivers that want to finish in 1st too. Denny won't be happy finishing in 10th. I'll be fine with him finishing in 10th, and it's the runway's just bigger, wider, longer for him to finish in 10th. Even if he falls to his average of 15th, that's 48.25. It's probably not enough to be in the optimal lineup, but it's definitely in the discussion of beating at least 15 or at least 20 other drivers. So a little expensive, and I don't mind fading off because he will be very heavily owned, but I still will punch the free square. Same thing with Christopher Bell. He won this race in the spring. His average running position is 19.3, and he does end up finishing a lot better in 13th. So this is kind of what I'm saying, is not always, and there is, it's interesting on how you want to look at how the slide happens with the average finish and average running position. Does this show that Christopher Bell just gets lucky towards an end or creates his own luck and has better average finishes than where he's actually running? Or was he not that good and just got lucky because of what happened? I'm a little mix of both. I mean, Christopher Bell's perfectly fine. He's like the rest of these guys that are really fast at these tracks. It's either I'm going to win or I'm not going to finish. It's checkers or wreckers. And especially, I don't have my little win flags that is copied from, I just started the baseline from the spring race. Oh well. Christopher Bell's got 3 wins and the 1 win here at Atlanta from earlier. Kind of like Denny Hamlin. This is kind of like a free square. 5 spots worse, but same thought process. 28th, 10th, 55 points. And that's if he leads 5 laps. Say he leads 0, it's 54.25. I mean, that's still in or around optimal lineup. Now, finishes any worse than that, and it gets a little hairy. His average finish is 13th. It's 47.25. I don't think that makes an optimal lineup. So it's Christopher Bell's going to need to finish 10th or better to be in the discussion. Or, I mean, go get the win and have 74 points and probably be one of the highest scores on the page. So, kind of the baseline is we need to get close to that 55 points. Oops. And, that's... So when you're building your lineups, you just have to go, okay, will Chris Bell get a top 10? And go, all right, I'm willing to place that bet. And put him in lineups with other people that you think are going to get in the top 10. Brad Keselowski, $9,000, starting in 6th. The RFK drivers, along with most of the Ford drivers, including the Penske's, all qualified extremely well. Now, Brad K actually runs fairly well, has some bad luck, and he has been bitten by the bad luck bug this year, I think, almost every race. So, starting in 6th, you can take it or leave it. His average finish is 19.8. His average running position is 15.6. He finished 39th in the spring race here. If he goes and finishes in first and leads 15 laps, it's 56 points. He's in the conversation. Well, if he doesn't get a chance to lead many laps, and he falls to, let's say he just finishes where he starts, it's 40.7 points. It's not in play. Could he win? Like I said, there are honestly 36 cars that could win this race. 35 cars that could win this race. And there are 40 cars starting, so 40 cars potentially could, any of the 40 could win. There's some that are very, 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 very doubtful. So this is what I'm talking about, is I don't have enough, not courage, I just don't think it's a smart play with somebody who has the bad luck bug. Can he break out of that bad luck bug tonight? Absolutely. He has led laps 14 to his high is 747 in the last 5 races here. So he has the potential to lead laps and finish in first. And at this point, he has to finish in first if he's going to make the playoffs. And that would really upset the apple cart. But either way, it's the same thing. If you don't think Joey Logano is going to win, don't put him in the lineup. If you don't think Brad Keselowski is going to win, don't put him in the lineup. Anybody starting in the top 10, if you don't think they're going to win, or at least finish top 3 with a lot of laps led, don't put them in the lineup. That's what it just comes down to. And I probably won't have much, or maybe one shot of Brad Keselowski. It's just, the odds are not in his favor. And the runway's really short. It's like an aircraft carrier. Kyle Busch, 8,800, starting in 29th. He's got an average finish of 6.4. And just like Ryan Blaney, 5 top 10s out of the last 5 races. This potentially could be Kyle Busch's chance to make the playoffs. Runs really, really well here. Starting in 29th, that's a lot of cars to go through, and we've seen what Kyle Busch has done in the past when he has to work his way through the field. Typically, he spins. But you don't get 5 top 10s by spinning at drafting style tracks. So he's going to need he's going to need some help to get up there. Can he absolutely get up there? It does it most races here. Finished 7th in the spring. Yeah. Once again, Kyle Busch is going to be pretty heavily owned. He should be probably favored to win. I think actually in the Vegas odds, he was just on the bottom. I think he's like 8.5 to 1 to win. So, bet $1, win 8.5. I think that's what it is, but he'll come across the bottom of the screen here in a minute with the odds. I think he's actually in the top 6 of the favorites by Vegas. 29 to first, get you 79 points. We've done this a couple of times with a lot of other drivers starting towards the back, and it kind of all plays the same. The calculator doesn't lie. Let's say he doesn't lead any laps and he gets to 11th. That's 52.25. Once again, all these guys starting back here are going to need to get into the top 10. So if you think they're going to be able to make it into the top 10, thumbs up. Now that starts to shift a little bit once we get less expensive. You get under $7,000, this point total drops closer to 45 or 50 points. So, but Kyle Busch being at $8,800 is definitely going to need to be in the top 10. So if you think Kyle Busch is going to be in the top 10, then you definitely absolutely need to run him. Tyler Reddick, starting in 23rd, $8,600 in Draftkings. He's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. In 2311, it just is a tick off. And a tick off at this level is not a great thing. Can Tyler Reddick win at Atlanta? Sure. Like I said, anybody can. But he's kind of like William Byron. Starting a tick further back, but 17th place average finish, 18th place average running position, finished in 19th in the spring race, only has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. So 2 races, he didn't even finish in the top 20. Starting in 23rd, if he gets to 12th, lead 5 laps, it's 45.5 points. At $8,600, that's probably not going to make it. That's realistically probably just barely going to be in the top 15 in points. Sorry, I had a text. I want to make sure it wasn't my wife or kid. It was not. It was spam. So Tyler Reddick, I'll have some ownership. It's not an all-out fade, but I don't necessarily love it either. So Ross Chastain starting in 34th. Like I said before, that this is lining up a lot like the spring race. Ross was in the 30s, Denny was in the 30s, Stenhouse was in the 30s. This is just another one of those. It's a free square, in my opinion. Take it or don't take it. It could go either way. I mean, 34th to first, we already know what all that does. So, and the crazy thing was Bob Pockris actually picked Ross Chastain as his winner this morning, starting in 34th. Now, I mean, he started in 40th of the Coke 600 and ended up winning it. Longer race, but absolutely, he can come from 34th and win again. He don't even have to get to 10th to get to that 55-point mark. He can finish 13th, 12th. The top 12 for Ross Chastain. Oops, sorry. And that gets you where you need to be for your optimal lineups. I mean, just like Denny, the runway's really large and really wide. You could land a space shuttle on it. So, where Joe Logano is going to have to be a rocket ship caught from outer space by chopsticks like Elon Musk. Lots of analogies we could use for this. Let me know if there's an audio issue. I just had a warning from YouTube. It said, your current bit rate's lower than normal. Chris Buescher, $8,300, starting in 13th. The Fords are fast. At least Buescher's got a little bit of a runway here, but his average finish is 25th, 17.3 average running position. He needs to have a good points day. He's going to be, if people start to play shenanigans with strategy near or close to stage 1 or stage 2, Buescher's going to try to go get the points. He's on the good side of points right now. He needs to stay there. The win is such a coin flip here. If he has the opportunity to get stage points, he's going to take it. So that also puts him in kind of a danger zone by trying to finish top 10. And stages, they get a little harebrained and crazy at the stage ends. Especially just trying to get up 7th place. But it gives you 3 points of playoff points, or 3, yeah. So his average finish is 20th. I mean, like I said, anybody can win, but if he gets to his average finish, it's real ugly. We always know what that does. That's 20 points. But if we think he can make it in the, I mean, he's realistically going to, yeah, he's going to need to finish top 3 to be there. Possible, sure. Question is, do you want to bet on that or not? And actually, that's only 53.25. We're trying to get to that 55. Now at 8,300, it starts to, it's loosely in that 50 to 55 points. So a top 3 would probably be close. And honestly, if you had him with the other 5 right people, you're going to finish really well. Pretty much if all 6 of your drivers can be at 50 points or more, you're going to have a good day in most all tournaments. Chase Briscoe at 8,100, starting in 10th, our winner from last week. I mean, I don't love it. I don't hate it. He's one of the highest non-Ford drivers, starting up in 10th. He's got an average finish of 27, but an average running position of 21. He finished 21st in the spring. I mean, yeah, he's going to almost need to finish top 2. Maybe a top 3 would put it there. And I could run the calculator if we need to, but we just did this with Chris Buescher starting in 13th. It's about the same points. He's going to need to finish top 3. Possible. I don't love it by any means, so they'll be willing to do maybe some strategy plays to get a better finish, but he's locked in the playoffs. If he has the opportunity to win a stage, he will, but if he's not, they could play a differing strategy to get maybe track position. But Carson Hocevar, 7,900. Carson the Chaos Hocevar. That's what I'm calling him. I'm calling him Chaos. Carson Chaos Hocevar. That's kind of what he is. I think it's hilarious in mid-season, in-season tournament that TNT's having. It's Carson Hocevar against Ryan Blaney. Well, this race was where Carson and Ryan Blaney got into it, and that began the conquest of Carson Chaos Hocevar's being really on the map. But he's been doing chaos stuff forever. I mean, just ask Corey Heim in the 2023 Truck Series Championship. Carson cleaned him out when they were both racing for a title. So Carson's been doing this forever. But he's pretty good, so typically he ends up having pretty good finishes or not finishes at all. Once again, starting in 30th, he finished in 2nd in this race in the spring. They bring a ton of speed. He'll have probably 7 fast laps. And starting in 30th, you don't need to finish in 1st. Finish in 10th and get 57 points. You can finish 11th and get 54 points. So I mean, Carson Hocevar is right there with the other Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain. The problem is they're going to be extremely heavily owned, and it's going to be a very popular lineup to have Hocevar, Hamlin, and Ross. And we've got a couple other really decent plays coming up. Suarez, starting in 31st, won the spring race of 24. He finished in second in the fall race. 13.4 average finish. It's one of his better tracks, and the cookie cutter style mile and a half, Daniel Suarez actually runs really, really well at it. Daniel needs to get a win to probably solidify keeping his contract for next year. He's probably a little bit on the hot seat, and that's really tough. But when you got a Connor Zilic breathing down your back door, and your teammates both have wins and you don't, he's going to need to get a win. Now, does that mean he drives a little bit over his head? Potentially. So far, I don't mind the Daniel play. It does worry me a little bit, but he's another one of those. This is a free box. Take it or leave it. We can only have so many of these freestyle boxes. But 31st to 1st, I mean, we know what it does. And it's going to be, can you get to a top 12? Oops. Yeah, it's pretty much a top 12. We'll get you the 52 points, and at $7,700, we're in that ballpark of between 50 and 55 at $7,700. Bubba Wallace starting in 24th. There's room to run. The runway's not as big, but it's there. An average finish of 19th, an average running position of 18.8. Finished 9th in the spring race. Only one top 5, 2 top 10s. Very similar to his teammate, who's starting 23rd. They're kind of starting near each other. And you got some other Toyotas that are starting towards the back. Bubba Wallace is definitely somebody that you can easily have in. Don't have a problem having him in. But it's really going to be, Bubba's going to have to go and finish. Yeah, he's going to need to finish at least 8th or better. That's kind of when you're building the story, can Bubba Wallace get to an 8th? I mean, he can. Does he, though, when you build that lineup? And it gets a little tougher when all of a sudden, if you're building that lineup around 2 or 3 of the Penske's all finishing well. That changes the dynamic. Now you've got it shortens and narrows that window a little bit. Alex Bowman starting in 9th. Oh boy, Alex, you're starting really far up there. Alex has been running better as of late. There's not a whole lot to write home about here, though. I really, in my opinion, it's almost in no man's land. You run an Alex Bowman if you think he can win. The problem is I don't think he leads a whole lot of laps. Starting in 9th, if he goes and finishes in 1st, I mean, it's 54.35 points. Oh, he'll lead 5 laps. 55.6 points. It's not a huge point day, but it gets you there. And at $7,400, it probably easily gets you there. But boy, any type of slip, and it goes away in a hurry. Go to 4th, and I'm not sure it's there anymore. It's 47.6. You fall to 7th, and it's really not there at 41.6. So Alice Bowman's got to have a top 3 day. Josh Berry starting in 2nd at $7,200. Same thing as the other Penske guys. If you think Josh Berry is going to go out and lead a bunch of laps and he's going to finish in the top 3, then you place him. If you think he is going to finish 15th and that's a 16.8 day. That definitely doesn't cut it. So third, and you lead 20 laps for Josh Berry. That's still only 46.8 points. That's on the outside of the optimal, just barely at $7,200. It potentially at $7,200 could end up playing. So with that being said, Josh Berry, in my opinion, if you absolutely want to be contrarian and you want to do something off the cusp, which I'm sure Family Man will want to do, you could run like a Austin Cindric, Josh Berry play, having Austin Cindric win, Josh Berry finishing top 3, and that probably ends up being close to both of them being in the optimal. There is a play for that to happen. I think the Joey Logano Ryan Blaney is too expensive to let that happen, but Josh Berry does open the door with the salary that you get. Oh, great. The problem with doing these things during the day is my dog hears and sees everything. Sorry about that. Oh my god, hold on. My little 15-pound dog wants to go eat the neighbor's dog that's like 100 pounds. One bite at a time, I guess. Ty Gibbs, $7,000 starting in 16th. He's going to need to finish top 5, in my opinion, to really do it. And he's got a 20.4 average finish here, 18.3. Finished 32nd in this race last year, or in the spring. I mean, 16 to first definitely gets you there. Let's say he doesn't lead any laps. 0. He's going to need to finish. I mean, if we're talking, he's got to be in the high 40s, low 50s. He can fall to 7th or better, and that potentially plays. I mean, the Gibbs has been better in the Gibbs cars, but mostly Ty Gibbs' car has been recently better. It's just a crapshoot, and it becomes, like I said, the runway is okay, but it's not a big runway like Denny Hamlin's and the rest of them. So Ty Gibbs could easily be played. It could be a little contrarian. You can get different with your lineup a little bit with Ty Gibbs. So I'll have a few Ty Gibbs lineups, but probably not a ton. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., like we just talked about when we were looking at the optimal lineup. I mean, what was that lineup anyways? Let me go pull it up real quick. It was Bell, Stenhouse, Hamlin, Hocevar, Ross. And literally all 5 of them are all in a free spot zone. I mean, we could almost literally copy and paste the optimal lineup from the spring race. And it might look identical. The Kyle Larson play may not fit as well, but that's what I'm saying. You could literally just take the Kyle Larson play out. I mean, even at, what was Blaney, $11,000? That almost fits if all the pricings were the same, and they're not the same now. But yeah, I mean, it's scary that all these same guys are all starting towards the back again, that were all pretty much full free play squares from the spring race. So yeah, I mean, Ricky doesn't even have to finish in first. He could finish probably 15th. Oh, absolutely. Not leading any laps. 15th, 52.25. Now the question is, does Ricky Cohen take out Carson Hocevar? I don't think so. That doesn't play well at super speedways, and Ricky knows that. And Ricky needs to go get a win. Ricky's going to give a payback to a Carson Hocevar when he is already 1 or 2 laps down and the opportunity presents itself. Ricky needs to win to get into the playoffs. And that's, he's going to have a car that is not going to finish well for him to take back or to seek revenge. Michael McDowell, $6,800 starting in 32nd, is another typically pretty good drafting super speedway style driver. The only part that concerns me is I don't know if there was an issue, and if he's already starting in 32nd, so even if he goes to 40th, it's not that big of a deal. The question is, do they make whatever adjustments? Because he said something was broken in his car. Now, you remember, they had no practice, no warm-up, no anything. They unloaded and hit the track. So something could have easily not been tightened down correctly or whatever for Michael to not have a good lap, and he did scrape the wall a little bit. So I could easily see Michael McDowell starting in 32nd, and we get the word that he is going to go to the rear for unapproved adjustments. Not a big deal. It's 8 spots. He'll make up 4 of those in the first 2 laps. So he'll get pretty much back to where he started. I'm not worried about the starting spot for Michael McDowell, but I just wanted to make sure that if you did not get a chance to watch qualifying, he did have a slight issue, but he's starting far enough back that it really doesn't matter. And once again, he's starting back here with the rest of these guys. He could easily be one of the plays, free square plays. The problem is you just got to figure out which free square play you want to run. And that's why, I don't love the Ty Gibbs starting in 16th. Like I said, the runway's a lot shorter. It's not catching rocket ships with chopsticks, but and then you have Connor Zilic, who ran top 5 all night last night in the Xfinity race. His car's handled a little bit different, and he's going to want to just finish this race. But it's not going to take a whole lot for Connor Zilic to get, 15th at $6,600 will put him there. Now, it is risky with somebody who does not drive this car very often. But, that's 51.25 points for $6,600 he'll get ownership. It's another potential free square. He'll have less ownership than Denny Hamlin, so you could differentiate that way. Problem is, I think the opportunity for Denny to finish top 10 is greater than Zilic finishing in 15th. Both are very, very possible, though. Ty Gillen's 17th. This is kind of like I just said about Ty Gibbs. I don't mind the Todd Gillen play. This is the spot where Kyle Larson started from in the spring, ended up in the optimal lineup because he finished second. Same thing could easily happen here with Todd Gillen. Anybody. This is an anybody race. It's anybody could finish up well here. It's 60 points. There's enough room to run here for Todd. I don't mind it to be different. I'm not going to have a ton, but I could easily see kind of what we just talked about as a lineup with Ricky, Denny, Ross. All the guys that are starting in the 30s, and you throw a Todd Gillen in one, you throw a Ty Gibbs in one, and you just kind of go. Eric Jones starting in 26th. It easily playable. 26th to first gets you 73 points. Like I said, the runway's a little bit shorter. So 10th, 53, 13th probably maybe still gets you close at 6,300. He doesn't have any E-laps led in the last 5 races here. That was odd. A lot of people have. But Legacy has been slow until recently. Eric Jones finished in 31st. He's got a 20th place average finish. 24.6 average running position. But like I said, Legacy really struggled until probably the last, I don't know. John Hunter's been having a actually pretty good year all year. So Eric Jones needs to get to 13th. He's definitely playable. It'll probably get overlooked a little bit because of everyone else that's in the 30s. So I definitely don't mind it. Same thing with Noah Gregson. He's definitely in play and This is easily how you can differentiate. You go with an Eric Jones or a Noah Gragson, maybe even a Todd Gillen instead of a Ross or a Denny where everybody else is going to lean towards, but you still have the upside of they have the potential to get and have top tens. I mean, their average finishes are crap, but it, I think I like Noah Gregson better than I like David Starr or Cody Ware. But I also like Noah Gregson to probably F it up and do something dumb. So, but we've run the calculator. It doesn't change much at all for any of these guys. I mean, what is he going to need to get to 13th for 47 points? Don't lead any laps. Takes you to 46.25. I mean, at 6,200, it's on the outside looking in, but maybe on the inside, depending on how lineups fall. So really, 12th or better. AJ Allmendinger, another great way to get a little different with your lineups. He's got an average finish of 11th. 11th. Now it's only 3 starts. 18th place running position. So he finishes better than he races. He finished 14th in the spring race at 6,100, starting in 21st. You know, an 11th doesn't quite cut it for the average, but if he can just improve by 2 spots, it's 47. That potentially puts you in or just on the outside, and it differentiates your field. Now, AJ's probably going to have some ownership because he did have a pretty good race in the spring. So, out of the group, I think AJ probably gets owned. Noah gets missed. Austin Dillon starting in 12th, average running position of 23 and average finish of 19.8. I don't like this play. I mean, he's got to finish in first to get to 59. Okay, well, that's asking a lot, but I mean, it's again, anybody's race. 7th. Okay, so Austin Dillon needs to get to a 7th. He's got an average finish of about 20th. Possible. I don't know if I like it, though. They have quietly been doing better this year, especially the last few weeks. So, I mean, you can easily differentiate. He won't be very highly owned. He will be easily less than 10, maybe even 5%. Where I think AJ is probably going to be closer to 10 or 11. Noah probably maybe 10% owned. Zane Smith starting in 8th. He finished in 11th. This is kind of like a Josh Berry play. You could really differentiate thinking that Zane Smith could get a top 5 and having a Joey Logano go out and lead 90 laps from the pole and win. Then that covers a Zane Smith finishing in 7th. 40.25 points. I don't think that actually cuts it. I think he's going to need to get to 5th, 4th, probably top 3. Top 3 would probably definitely do it. He could probably even go to 5th if you're running. I mean, I think once again, any of these guys starting in the top 10, if you think they're going to go get a top 3, they're in play. If you don't, and the risk is big, this is like that. A top 3 for Zane Smith is like catching a rocket with chopsticks, not landing the space shuttle at Andrews. So, John Hunter Nemechek, $5,700, starting in 19th. Definitely in play. At 5,700, what did he finish? 10th in this race in the spring? Oops, I don't need to start. I need to finish 10th. 45.25 points. for a 10th place finish, where Zane at $200 more needs to have a top 3. Now, with that being said, John Hunter Nemechek will probably have a little bit more ownership. I also don't think John Hunter Nemechek is going to pull 20% ownership. He might pull 10. I guess it's probably a little bit less, because everybody's going to go after these guys starting in the 30s. Any of these guys starting in the high teens, low 20s are all absolutely in play. Justin Haley, I mean, out of all the tracks, this is one of his better ones, 17.2 and 18.9. I could easily see going off of some of these other guys and putting a Justin Haley in, because at this point, Justin Haley has fallen completely out of everybody's minds of doing anything, because he hasn't done anything. But he's won Daytona twice. Once in the Cup Series, but he's won it 3 times in the Xfinity Series. He's a good little super speedway drafting style track racer. And really, he's going to need to get to 12th to be in the discussion. I mean, I'm okay. No, I don't necessarily mind that. I think it's easily possible. He finished 24th, but his average running position is 18.9. I don't mind taking some Justin Haley. He's going to be underowned. Where somebody is going to jump over Justin Haley to go after Corey LaJoie. Guaranteed. It's just name recognition. And Corey's been on everybody's mind because he just finished with the Prime broadcast. And he almost actually won this race in 2023 against Chase Elliott. And that's still probably on some people's minds. We're starting to age out of that potential. But he finished 38th in the spring. And he's not driving a full-time car, and it is a Rick Ware car. So I would probably rather have a Justin Haley than a Corey LaJoie. Also, Justin Haley runs weekly. Corey LaJoie does not. So, how far does Corey need to get up? 13th, 12th. Anything better than that, it's a good play. Cole Custer starting in 7th. He's got an average finish of 34th, an average running position of 31.2, and he goes out and qualifies 7th. It's too. We're trying to catch back-to-back rocket ships with chopsticks for him to be in my conversation. I'm a fade on Cole Custer. I know he burned me the last 2 weeks. Will he burn me a third? Maybe. Riley Herbst is another one that it's burned me. He toasted me last week at Pocono. I had to get different, and I got different, and I went really heavy on Riley, and that rotor blowing up, that hurt. I mean, I still ended up, I think, almost. No, I was a little under I was under even, but I had some shots at getting back up there. Unlike Mexico, which was by lap 10, I was done. I mean, Riley finished 17th in this race last year, or in the spring. I mean, at his price tag, 35 points isn't going to cut it. He's going, once again, build the scenario of Riley Herbst finishing top 12. I mean, that's a little tough because of his averages. He's really probably going to need to finish top 10 to be kind of safe in there. But at $5,300, he probably could finish 12th or 13th. SVG, another one that, I mean, at this point, starting in 35th, all SVG's got to do, the problem is he's not going to, is just finish on the lead lap. And he does need points. We are very, very quickly, and we'll know after tonight, very, very quickly getting closer and closer to having 16 or 17 winners. We get to 17th winner. Shane at this point's on the outside looking in. Now, we've got 2 more road courses in the next 2 weeks coming up. So SVG should score a fair amount of points, but there's no guarantee about that. You got a lot of hungry road course guys that need wins just like SVG had. But easily easy free play at $5,100. I mean, go beat me a 20th, I think. Yeah, I mean 20th or well, they're not going to lead any laps. Everybody's going to get fast laps. They get spread out amongst everybody. 18th definitely is in play. I mean, everything's risky in this game, and it's difficult to put the right pieces together. But I mean, you're talking about a $5,100 guy that finished 23rd in this race in the spring. I mean, won a couple more spots. I mean, I'll take Shane Van Gisbergen over Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon might be the lowest owned driver in the field, starting in 14th. Average finished at 23.7, finished 29th in the spring. I just don't. It's, once again, it's like Cole Custer. He's going to need to catch 2 rocket ships with chopsticks. I mean, if you really want to get different, you can play a Ty Dillon. He's going to need to get to 7th or better. Maybe 8th. Ty Dillon in 8th place? I mean, sure. Anything is possible at this track. What are the odds? Getting pretty small. Or getting pretty large, whichever way you want to look at that. Cody Ware starting in 39th at $4,900. It's in play. He's got an average finish of 30th. I mean, I think I like the SVG play a little bit better for $200 more and about the same starting spot. Plenty of runway. You can play Cody Ware. We're not worried about salary cap. So absolutely in play. I don't need to put it on the calculator. If he finishes top 20, it's probably going to be close to optimal or really helping out your lineups. BJ McLeod. The only problem, I like BJ a lot, and I love when he's in races. He runs the car hard. He can easily get up there and play and win. But he doesn't run every week. So, that's kind of the tough part. And I know Connor Zilic doesn't run every week either. But at least Connor raced the Xfinity race. At least he races trucks. He's racing every week. BJ is not racing every week. So if you think this is going to be a high carnage race, BJ is really, really good at literally just sitting in the back and let the carnage happen around him and then get a 20th place finish. Easily possible. I didn't even list David Starr. I have no interest in David Starr. He was 4 seconds slower than anybody else in qualifying, which I'm sure was slightly was on purpose, but it's just not going to happen. So yeah, guys that I really, really like, and everyone's going to really, really like. The Chase Elliott plays in play, but Ross, Denny, Ty, Bell, Suarez. Oh, did I have an open? Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, this is from the spring race. That's how similar these lineups are. Okay. Either way. It's the same people though. It's Ross, it's Denny, it's Ty starting way too far up. And I didn't change this logo. It's been a long week. And I've got to pack everything up and hit the road tomorrow morning to drive to Florida. So we're almost ready to wrap up, and then I'll get into the trucks, and I'll finish up my lineups with trucks. So if you were doing a lineup for trucks, we've got about 30 minutes to finish those and get those put in. Either way, if you're not interested in the trucks, good luck tonight. Hopefully they race under the lights. I mean, a Sunday race would be fine too. I could watch it while I'm driving to, well, I can't watch. I can listen to it while I'm driving to Florida. Next week, we are at the Chicago Street Course, and I am driving back on Saturday to my dad's in Charleston. I will have a video Saturday night at some point. I'm hoping that about 9 or 9:30. And I don't know if I will have practice information in because I will be driving. I will have to depend on my 14-and-a-half-year-old son to potentially put all that in for me. I can walk him through it while I'm. And the thing is, I do have a Tesla and we do have self-drive, so I don't necessarily have to drive. I can kind of look over and teach him, but we'll see what happens. Either way, I appreciate you tuning in. If you want to stick around for trucks, I'm about ready to do that. If not, good luck tonight, and we'll see everyone next Saturday. Thanks. Bye. Okay, now let's get into finishing up my trucks. All right, so this is kind of, and the screen's going to look a little wonky. Let me see if I can shrink it down enough to make it fit right. Let's see. More PD for trucks. Place differential. I mean, it runs the same. It doesn't change how you from trucks to Cup to Xfinity when it comes to road courses. You're going to have dominators actually do come into play. The thing is, yes, you want some place differential, but I have absolutely no problem. As you can see right now, out of 40 lineups, I've got 22 lineups with Corey Heim. I've got 16 with Jordan Taylor. I try not to put the two of them in the same lineup. Lane Riggs, I have no interest in starting in third. Daniel Hemrick starting 11th, I've got some interest. Chandler Smith, I'm at about 14 lineups. Majeski starting in fourth, I don't have any interest. I mean, the whole thing is, do I think Lane goes and beats Corey Heim or Jordan Taylor? No. So I'm not going to put him in. Connor Mozak starting in eighth. Do I think he can get up and beat Jordan or Corey? No. So you go back to the same calculator that I was running prior, and you start to run the variables. Daniel Hemrick's probably good enough to get up, and Chandler Smith is probably good enough to at least get up to third or second. And if either one of these have an issue, then they're in play. So, I've got some. I do have some lineups where I've got a Brent Cruz starting in fifth, a Corey Heim starting in first, and a Chandler Smith starting in ninth. It does play, and that's how I get a little bit different with my lineups. But typically, most of them are a Jordan Taylor in second, a Daniel Hemrick starting 11th, Wesley Slimp at 33rd, Friesen starting in 22nd. I'm also playing some of these guys that a lot of people don't know that are Skip Barber racers at Lime Rock. They know and understand the track. They know how it'll shift and change, and they know how to get through a road course and stay on track. And honestly, starting in 33rd, if you can just stay on track, he'll at $6,500, he'll work his way up to probably a top 20, if not potentially better. Even though, I mean, the truck was a little slow. They blew their first truck up, like literally yesterday in practice. They set it on fire. It caught fire and it pretty much burnt down. So they had to go to a completely new truck, and that's why he's starting in 33rd. They'll make the adjustments they need. I mean, it might finish in 20th. But 13 spots of place differential at $6,500 plays if a Jordan Taylor goes out and dominates and wins. So how many lineups do I have? Wesley, 6,500. I've got nine lineups. So yes, place differential absolutely plays. Being smart about it absolutely plays. A Corey Heim dominating or a Jordan Taylor dominating are absolutely in play. They were both fastest in practice. They were both fastest in qualifying. There's no reason, unless they have a mechanical issue or they decide to start to tangle with each other. And Jordan's not going to go and tangle with Corey Heim to get the win. He'll finish in second and be like, hey, it was a great day. Corey just beat me. Now, Elaine Riggs, well, Elaine and Corey might fight if that ends up happening, but a Ty Majeski that is not in the playoffs yet needs a win. If he gets close to Corey, he will rub bumpers with him and go for the win. Where Jordan Taylor's not going to do that. That's also not Jordan's a road course guy, and they just don't do that. So we've got a few more minutes to finish up lineup. So yeah, I've got Corey Heim, Daniel Hemrick, Thomas Nzuna, who does have a lot of road course experience. Andre Perez starting in 10th. I don't have anybody in place differential, and I have $6,100 left. So I can just make a choice. Do I want to go with a William Labros or a Jack Wood? Well, Jack Wood is not very good at road courses. They don't run road courses very often in trucks. So the amount of experience that Jack Wood has on road courses, even though there's 5 spots of place differential, definitely come into play. So it's either a William or a Timmy Hill. Tony Breininger actually is decent on road courses. She's better road courses than she is at ovals. So, and I have her in 6 lineups, but I don't want to go that far down. I'm going to take the shot with William, and I'm going to put him in here. And then this all funnels down into where I can just copy, paste, and put into the Excel spreadsheet to upload to Draftkings. So literally, as soon as I get done and I upload, my lineups are done. That's why I do it this way, because I do more lineups. It's the same thing if you pay any of the services that are out there and you say, I want to run 20% of this and 10% of this and 5% of this and this guy, and go, okay, computer, do your thing. It'll spit something out similar to this, where I actually just hand build all of them. So second, 11, 13, 24, 27, 10,400. I can pretty much run anybody I want. I don't want to go down here to Grant Enfinger. Now I'm going to put Grant in. And then I just kind of I look at how much I'm running of somebody, and I kind of look to see how it fits and plays, and I kind of plug and play. Like, I just know that I'm not interested in Connor Mozak. I'm not really interested in Honeycutt or Brent Cruz. I've run them in a couple. Honeycutt's okay at road courses. Brent Cruz is actually really good at road courses. Doesn't run trucks, but so it's a little of that information that you start to know and figure out. I've already got Ben Rhodes, so I can go Tyler Ankrum to fit in this spot here at 15th. Or I can go all the way down to Tanner Gray starting in 24th. I mean, I could go all the way down to wherever I want. I think I'll just stick with Tyler Ankrum. And then $12,000. I could easily come up here and I could put Corey Hyman, which I will probably do since I've got plenty of salary crap to do that. And then to differentiate, this is a fairly similar. So I've got Tyler Ankrum against Ben Rhodes, Josh Bilicki versus Andre Perez, and Corey Heim. So I've got 2 spots that are different. I can easily put Corey Heim in again, but I don't want to be that heavy with Corey, so I'll just go with Jordan. Thinking that Jordan being more of the road course guy, could take over for that spot. I mean, it's literally, do you think this is a road course with trucks, or do you think this is a truck with road courses? And, flip a coin on which one's going to be better, the road course guy or the truck guy. Both have to play. $7,400. I've got somebody starting in first, so middle of the road. I do not like. I mean, I wouldn't mind Raja Karuth. In fact, I could be different. Raja had the most laps in practice. He literally, once practice started, he literally finished. Corey Heim, Wesley, Tom, William, Tony. More than enough money. but I don't mind leaving some money on the table down here. Who do I like the best for points? Did I say Tanner? Get my copy. Yeah, I don't have Tanner Gray in that one. So this is literally just being built with Corey Heim going out and dominating, and who do I think may end up getting PD spots? Same thing with this one. I got plenty of money. I took Tanner Gray in that one. I'll move off of Tanner and go Matt Crafton, starting in 23rd. That's just kind of how I end up filling in the spots. Is I start to put everybody out there that I like and think can do well, and then see where my final spots are. 10,400. Pretty much anybody. I've got somebody pull. Do I have Cam in this grouping? No, I'll put Cam Waters in there. Cam Waters is really good at road courses. He's probably almost as good as Jordan. Jordan's in a little bit better equipment though. 9,200. I can get a little different with this one. I'll put a Connor Mozak in. I haven't done that. That's I know which guys are probably going to be pretty low owned because of where they're starting and don't have a whole lot of road course experience, and go, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit something different to be different from the field. Same thing with this. I can run anybody. I got 13,200. I got a ton of space. In fact, I may come off of Tony Brodinger there and go with a. I'll go with another. I'll go with a Tanner Gray. Where to go? Tanner Gray. And still a ton of money left over. I'll get a little bit different and play Geo. I don't really know a whole lot about Geo's experience on road courses, but he's driving a really good truck, so we'll take a shot. Be different. I don't think he's going to be super heavily owned. Same thing. I've got plenty of money here. And I don't mind playing all of those. So once again, we can go with Grant. Grant was pretty decent in practice. Just missed in qualifying. And I do have here a first and second. So that gets a little convoluted. Don't love that. Timmy Hill, Spencer Boyd, Tony, Frankie. I don't have any Frankie. I'll go with a Frankie. That'll be different. And all Frankie's got to do is just not wreck, and he'll gain probably at least 10 spots. I don't know if that'll be enough to get up there. I don't love taking the first and second spot. I'm asking for the same thing on both sides of the coin. I don't have a lot of Jake Garcia, so 6,800. I'll just throw Jake into this one. And in fact, I may throw Jake into this one also. So does that end up finishing all of my lineups? All right, that finishes all of my lineups. So then what I do is I have everything kind of tabulated over here. I'll go through, oops, copy, and then paste. Oops, I don't know why that, oh yeah. No, that needs to move with it. Data, remove, create. So now I double check to make sure I don't have any ones that are over 50,000. Then I change to, this is their total starting average. So 11.83. So that's a whole lot of people starting up towards the front. But what I'm looking for is the same starting average lineup. And then I look at my salary range to make sure I don't have any matches. If I do have a match, I go make sure that I haven't duplicated a lineup. So nothing there. 15.5, nothing there. And then after this, I just will download the Draftkings sheet and then upload. And it's easy peasy. And we've got about 20 minutes to finish that. So I think actually I already downloaded. Practice from. Save that. Let's go here. Lineups. Oops. So you go under lineups. Up here. Yeah, so you go lineups. Oops, where'd it go? Come back. You go lineups, then you go edit entries, and then you click and download, and it'll download an Excel file. Then you come over here, and you literally just copy and paste in. So go back to trucks. And I can do it one or two ways. I can literally take it just the way I put it in if I don't care, or I do have it to where it's spread out a little differently. And I just like to sometimes get a little different with it. And I come over, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And that's pretty much it. Then you go back to the same screen and you hit upload. And there you go. So hopefully that I don't know if that ended up teaching you anything about how my crazy brain and mind works, but yeah, that's how I build almost all of my lineups. I do have a couple of single entry lineups that I'm going to build, but I'm not going to do that here. So I need to get off and do that because we have about 10 minutes for lineup lock. So go do your lineups. We'll see everyone next week while I'm on vacation. And good luck. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still taste the field? Yes. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun. Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker pass, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drug your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.